I've been doing push-ups. I've been doing sit-ups. I've been doing chin-ups. I've been doing pull-ups. I threw up once, but I'm okay now.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to a Wednesday edition of your favorite show on your sports network. It is, of course, the Ysn Power Hour, and it's Wednesdays. You know what that means. Scotty Mincher across the table from me. My name's DJ Oakley. Thanks for joining us for the Hour of Power here. Get you pumped up, Scott. I know you rolled in here pumped up.
Hour of Power, and I gotta say, man, great minds think alike. We're both repping Texas. So
you know what they say, Scotty? Go big or go home.
Go big or go home. Everything's bigger in Texas.
That's it, buddy. And then I'm wearing the Ohio shirt, so we got to rep the Ohio. But naturally, I got this because it's the YSN/Yoakley takeover of Ohio. So when I saw the Ohio shirt, I was like, oh, that can work on multiple fronts with Yoakley, Youngstown, YSN.
Yeah.
So I was all in.
It's got a great ring to it.
But this is one of my favorite hats.
I
Texas.
got my Youngstown Peace Race hat on.
All right. So we both have Youngstown and Texas represented. We didn't call this in. This is just natural.
Yep.
This is natural. All right, let's get to on this day in sports history. You're going to like this one. In 2004, on this day, March 2nd, 2004, Indianapolis Colts signed quarterback Peyton Manning to a 7-year, $98 million deal with a $34.5 million signing bonus. This was the largest package to date in the NFL. So once again, the Golden Boy sets the golden standard in the National Football League from a standpoint of being able to basically rewrite checks in the NFL. So when you think about Peyton Manning, my favorite quarterback of all time, not close, Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning.
Over Brady?
Yeah.
Wow.
Competitor of all time, Tom Brady. Tom Brady, Michael Jordan, to me. But quarterback, favorite quarterback to watch. Favorite quarterback to watch because he was so good.
He was just like his football mind was incredible.
Preparation, right? It's all about, I would never say that Peyton Manning had all the talent in the world to be a good quarterback, but he was always prepared. And my wife and I watched the Manning, the Book of Manning, on ESPN Plus, and he's very much like his dad. He's very much like Archie. Not so much in the running around side of things and the scrambling, but he was always prepared. When he went to Tennessee, he was always prepared because he was a freshman starting at that level, and he was a stud, and he did it all the way through. The most prepared anybody. Even now with Eli and Peyton on Monday Night Football, he's so prepared, like ridiculously prepared for broadcast. So I've always been a huge fan of Peyton Manning. Again, my favorite. I would argue that he's my favorite football player of all time.
Now, where do you think Manning, like, I know everybody, and I know there'd be no reason to change as far as the GOAT goes. I mean, if you say it's not Tom Brady, I think you're crazy. But would you put Manning Like, do you think Matt Manning could be as high as second best all time, or is that a little high?
I think it's a little high. I think he's got a lot of stuff. He's done a lot of things. He's got a lot of records. And even late in his career, he was phenomenal. Think about what he did with the Broncos, and all the records he broke even when he was, late in his career. Two-time Super Bowl winner. It's tough. It's tough because now you're living in Brady's shadow. Everybody is living in Brady's shadow until somebody comes along at some point, maybe not during our lifetime, and will break Tom Brady's record. So, because Scotty, records are what?
Meant to be broke.
That's right, buddy.
Yeah.
But I don't know that Peyton is the number 2 even. And I think that Patrick Mahomes could eventually overtake him, even Peyton Manning's records, because we're throwing the ball a lot more nowadays. But it was the Mannings, the Bradys, the Roethlisbergers, the Brees, Aaron Rodgers. It wasn't like that before. It wasn't like, in 1997, people were still running the football a lot, and now it's a passing league, and quarterbacks are being drafted in the fantasy drafts, first overall because of their passing yards. So it's all interesting. But Peyton Manning really rewriting the history books for the way that people got paid in the National Football League, which is something we're going to talk about. I know you're very interested, maybe not in the NFL side of things of people getting paid, but the baseball side of how people get paid. Scotty, we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. But first, we have some business to tend to, my friend. A lot of games on the network last night. I was there. Anthony was there in Barberton, where it was an absolute – points were at a premium in both games. It was the most defensive series of games I've ever called in my life. And unfortunately for the Lady Warriors of West Branch, it did not end in their favor. 36-31, the Lady Warriors lose that game to Norton, which will set up Norton in prime territory to get to Dayton on Friday. But they will have to go through the Salem Lady Quakers. And last night, the Quakers win 33-26. So the most points we saw was 36 in those two games. Unbelievable. So makes me wonder how many points we're going to see on Friday between Salem and Norton, with both teams being super stingy defensively. But the Quakers can light it up. Olivia Davidson-Chuck had 3 threes on the night. I think total 9 points total. Cammie Rome had 11 points and just as many swats, I think. So it was good to see the Quakers get to the finals and trying to punch their ticket to Dayton on Friday. So there's that one. Camel just kept on rolling, 73-55 over the Cardinal Huskies. Camel doing what Camel does. They in Soup City, they just keep on putting that spoon in their mouth and eating it up. This was a surprise of the night. Now, Quinn and I talked about it yesterday on the show. I had Mooney winning because of their defense, but they shot the lights out, 64-42 over Liberty last night. Congratulations to the Carter Mooney Cardinals who advance now. I think it's on Friday. And I think they play Springfield. I'm sure they play Springfield now that I think about it. And then obviously the bracket is set, man. They are rolling. More games tonight on the docket. You can check it all out at ysnlive.com/live. We will have you covered from pillar to post on those games. All right, Scotty, I know we talked just a little bit about it. Quinn's knowledge of baseball, he hates it, so he doesn't want to talk about baseball. You love the game, and you have some questions and want to talk about baseball and the state of baseball from your standpoint. Go ahead.
Yeah. Just some stuff I was thinking about on the way here, DJ, that I wanted to ask you. I mean, I've been reading up on, the lockout, and before they couldn't come to an agreement yesterday, I kept trying to get information, and then when they said they were gonna extend the deadline, I said, okay, maybe they will come to an agreement before 5 last night. But I wanted to just get your thoughts on. It seems to me more and more that Fred Manfred, he just doesn't. And I thought for the longest time that Bud Selig wasn't really the most popular commish, but I think Manfred has kind of taken that torch. A lot of people don't really seem to like him at all. And I guess my first question with them canceling games now and canceling the first two series of the season, it's not so much do you think, baseball is dead or going to die, because I think the NFL, unless something drastic changes, I think the NFL's just going to continue to be king. I mean, with all the games having so much significance, it's just different with the NFL. And, every game, one loss could ruin a season.
Not if they keep adding games.
What's that?
Not if they keep adding games.
Yeah. If they add more, some losses might start to become, not really as significant. But I think if they would, even if they stayed at 17, it's still like almost every game, it's their big time, every single game. And with baseball, it's not that every game doesn't matter. They definitely matter. But the objective in baseball, it's always been, we just want to try to get this series. It's never been to win every single game because, no one's going to do that. Even the 95 Indians with that tremendous lineup, they won 100 games or over 100, but even the best teams lose 60, 65 games. But I just want to know from you, DJ, do you think the ship has sailed on baseball ever being like a sport that is just, incredibly, can they do something to fix the state of the game right now
Yes.
as far as pleasing the young fans? And when I say young, I'm talking about fans younger than me and you, like fans that were born, let's say, 95, 96, that are adults now, but younger than us, that have lived in a world where you could get anything you want in 2 seconds. Everything's faster now. What's your fix? You said you think there's a way baseball can fix things. I mean, what would you do? Because I know you've liked some of the rules. You like when they had the runner on second in the 10th inning. So
Texas shootout, baby.
But again, losing regular season games, it just sucks, man. So where does baseball go from here in your mind?
Baseball goes to 82 games, just like basketball. And I don't think it'll ever happen because I said it yesterday, and I stand by it, that if you take 1,200 of baseball's best, right, which is the entire major leagues, and all those players go away, the replacement players have no chance of being that caliber of talent. But if you take the 30 owners and they go away and you replace them with 30 business people, baseball is thriving because baseball is not being run as a business. Each individual team and organization is being run by bad business owners. I'm just going to say it. I'm going to put it out there. Bad business owners, because they're not appealing to their fans. Can you imagine being a coffee shop? I see you got a coffee there. Can you imagine being a coffee shop and everybody wants iced coffee and you just say no? Nope, this is what we sell. So when your business product goes down, you start blaming the people who roast your coffee instead of just listening to your fans and saying, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to try this. Give it a shot. We're going to throw some ice in the coffee. You can doctor it up however you want, Scotty. You can put some good stuff. You can put the hard stuff in it if you want, as long as you're buying my coffee for $4 a large, right? Or a grande, depending on where you're getting your coffee at. Baseball doesn't listen to the fans. You know who listens to the fans? Football, basketball, hockey, golf, racing. Every other sport literally listens to their fans. Here's the problem. Baseball has 162 games. Last time I checked, less than 4% of those games, of those teams that have 162 games, 81 games at home, are selling out every game. I think it's the St. Louis Cardinals, and that's it, if I'm not mistaken, have been selling out every single game. Remember the days where, I almost said Jacobs Field, Progressive Field, they have it up there. How many sellouts in a row they had?
455.
Those days are gone. Because to your point, we can go online, and this is what we argue with YSN all the time. Until we have a team that has 162 games in a row for a season, people are still going to go to games. There's 22 basketball games. People are going to go to 11 of those home games on each side, right? If we had 81 games, there would be a point. People don't have time in their lives anymore to buy season tickets and to go to every single game. They don't.
Yeah, 81 games.
That's 81 nights, 81 days, 81 opportunities, 81 times you got to put the kids in the back seat, 81 times that you have to – it's costly now. It used to cost $10 to go to a baseball game, right? You sit there. It's bad. Yeah. It's an event. It's like going to Disney World. Nobody can afford that. Even the owners, I would argue, don't go to all 81 home games. So you're expecting the fans to. So the problem is there's a miscommunication. There is a complete disconnect, more than a miscommunication. There is a complete disconnect with baseball and its fans. Shorten the games or shorten the season. 82 games, it matches hockey, it matches basketball. 82 games should be the extent. And what they also are missing out on is pushing their stars, using Twitter, using social media, using TikTok, using all this stuff, letting their stars take the game back over. You got Fernando Tatis right now. Dude's an absolute stud on the baseball field.
In my, not to get away from your point, DJ, but I thought this years ago, before we even, I joined the YSN family and we become great friends. But I thought years ago that baseball, say what you want about the NBA, and yeah, I think that there's a few things about the NBA that I still to this day really dislike in comparison to the NBA in the 90s and even going back to like how things were done in the 80s. There's definitely things I really dislike. I don't think it's perfect. I think the NFL has it as close to perfect as you could get. But the NBA still, you go to a game and you know for certain it's, unless it goes into overtime, that game's gonna end, and it'll be 2.5 hours. The game will be over, and not only that, they do a great job in the other sports, NBA included. Even what I've seen from the NHL, even as a casual, NHL observer, I just think they do a better job of marketing their players than other sports.
And I think part of the problem is hockey knows their fan base. They know who their market is. Basketball knows their market. Football is marketable to anybody. Baseball primarily is marketed to Hispanics and white males, right? Now they're breaking into the female demographic, which I love. I love them bringing in because listen, I've talked to females who know more baseball than I'll ever remember. They forgot more baseball than I'll ever know. And from that standpoint, I think there's a problem because it's America's favorite pastime, right? But we're stuck there. I would much rather, and people get in arguments over this, I would much rather baseball be America's future than America's pastime. And the problem is we never made that shift in sports to make baseball America's future. We never protected the present so that way we have a future. The problem is
never evolved.
No, and now they're trying to by making all these video game rules. Now I love the Texas Shootout. I don't like people that complain that baseball is too long. I don't like that at all. I
never like that. To me, I maybe it's just because we're dinosaurs. I mean, we both we're getting older.
You're 35.
Both grew up in the we're born in the 80s, I should say. So maybe it's just because we're older than somebody that is early 20s, and just from the time they were born. I know 3-4-year-olds that they have like the most expensive iPhone, and they're like 3-4 years old. Like I couldn't even imagine having that one.
Here's my question to you: why do we celebrate 4 overtimes in hockey? Why do we celebrate triple overtime in basketball, college or pro? Why do we celebrate overtime football in the playoffs, but baseball is too long when it goes 10 innings?
Yeah, I never really got that. That was my point. Like, I think people, I just don't know. Like, I don't even necessarily know if it's the pace of play or they just like baseball's not as compelling to them as some of the other sports, because you just said you don't have a problem with the pace of play, but every person I talk to that doesn't like baseball, they'll say, oh, it's so boring. Or the ones that watch it occasionally, like don't watch every game, but they'll check out a game here and there once a while, go to a game, they'll say it's too long. But you're right, like the NFL, it's very rare now that an NFL game wraps in under 3 hours with all the commercials. It seems like after every possession. You mentioned hockey is celebrated when it goes into all the overtimes and then potentially a shootout. So I don't know, man. Like, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know how much that argument holds water, but it's also like, I don't understand. I never, from the time I was my earliest memories from the time I could remember being 4 or 5 years old watching baseball, like I loved it. I never had a problem with the pace of the game. And there's something to me, DJ, still to this day. I told you when you interviewed me on here, it was probably about a month back, maybe a couple months back. And I told you that football is my favorite sport to watch on TV, but at the game, something about being at a baseball game, I just love. I just love the atmosphere, the vibes. It's just relaxing to me. So I don't understand. Like, I never really understood the whole baseball's boring thing.
Well, and I'll clear that up. I mean, this is easy for me because I married a girl who played football at the middle school age because they didn't offer volleyball. They didn't offer any, the girl sports that we have nowadays. So Sarah played football, and she loved football. She comes from a football family. Her brothers played at the college level. Her dad played at the college level, and she grew up a football girl. I mean, homecoming queen, all that stuff. But when we met, being a baseball player, she had zero appreciation for baseball. Didn't like it, but she didn't understand it. And I think that's part of the problem is baseball is a foreign language. And I don't mean that from who plays it. I mean that from a standpoint of people like, I don't understand chess. But if somebody sat me down and said, okay, this is how you play chess, these are the values, this is how you do it, I would appreciate it a lot more, right? Checkers is just easier. Football is an easier game to understand than baseball because at the end of the day, why they say there's always action on the field, there's actually more action on baseball field throughout the course of a game than there is in, I think, any other sport but hockey, if I'm not mistaken.
Definitely. There's more, or there's,
actual play time.
Yeah.
Is actually, I mean, football,
and
it's 3 yards.
Basketball is even more simplistic.
Yeah. And basketball is but my argument with professional basketball. Now I like college basketball a lot and I love high school even more. But professional basketball in the NBA has gotten to a point where they're hitting 98% of their shots. Like, what's fun about somebody going up and down a court and watching them on TV and knowing that 98% of their time they're hitting? It's just not fun for me. But that's me. Baseball, I had to explain to her, this is how you play baseball. And it's from a catcher's perspective, right? So you're sitting on the fastball. Your first pitch comes by. The guy's going to wait. He's going to take the pitch, right? The batter. Now you got them in the zone. Now you have to, the chess game begins, the chess match begins of what's the next pitch. And you're constantly thinking 2 pitches ahead, setting up the batter, things of that nature. When I was able to explain, there was an appreciation for the game because then it's a thinking person's game. I think people get tired after 3.5 hours of thinking about what's coming next. That's why people, they do celebrate 13-run games. When people go, the Giancarlo Stantons of the world, when they go off for 3 home runs, people get excited about that because it's runs and they don't have to think about it. They just want to watch the ball go. That's why golf's so exciting. People just want to watch how far can somebody hit a little white round ball. And from that standpoint, baseball's missing. Like the steroid era was big. Why? Because balls were flying out of the yard.
Yeah.
There's going to be people that are going to absolutely crucify me for this. I'm in the favor of offense in baseball. I love defense. Don't get me wrong, especially when it's October or November. I love it. I love the 1-0 game. But in the summer, I want to see the balls flying out of the ballpark. I want to see a show. I want to see 13, 12 games. And you don't see that as much. You see 4-3 games, 5-4 games, 5-1 games, 5-0 games. And they try to – the baseball – they almost like we do with the board here. They try to tweak things way too much instead of just letting them happen organically. Celebrate your stars. Let your stars be personalities. Let those personalities reach out to fans and bring people to the ballpark, and then your business will thrive. Basketball, you got front court, courtside seats. You're not sitting there saying, hey, don't talk to the fans. You're sitting there saying, engage with the fans as much as you possibly can. Hey, LeBron, reach in that guy's popcorn bag and pull out some popcorn and eat it because that's going to make for good TV. People are going to pay $40,000 for those seats because there's a chance you might reach into their bag of popcorn. You don't see that in baseball. You don't celebrate the fan in baseball. You get a souvenir. That's it. See you later. There's a disconnect. There's a disconnect with baseball, with the owners, and there's a disconnect with the fans. And that's the most important part because if you got no fans, you're not making any money. So, this whole idea of, well, we're not going to shrink our season because we're not selling out our games right now and we're going to lose money. I would be of the mind that if you shrink your season down to 41 games for a home schedule, you're going to sell out or
a bunch of those.
Yeah. You're going to get the same amount of people coming to those games that you would if you had 82 home games or 81.
Because think about the 162 game schedule, and you brought up the Indians sell-off streak that started in the 90s. But I also think that was a perfect storm at that time in Cleveland because, one, the stadium was brand new, and before that they played in what was a dump at the municipal. And then also another reason why I think it was a perfect storm, the Browns weren't a team for 3 of those years in the 90s. So the Indians were the hot ticket in Cleveland, not to mention the Cavs were pretty terrible at the time. So the Indians were the hot ticket. But how many times since those glory days of the 90s passed, you watch an Indians game in April and May, and how many times they're struggling to get more than a few thousand people there.
Well, and television changed it. Television changed it. It's not just once a week on NBC anymore. It's you can watch. I mean, you can subscribe to get all these games, and I get it. Being that what we do here at YSN, I understand that that's going to take some people out of the stands because not everybody has the time to do it. But I'm telling you, if you did 41 games at home, you're getting double the amount of fans. With the inflation that we have right now, you're telling me that you can't raise the price of those tickets and make it more valuable to be there half the time, double the price. That's business. And that's what these owners are. And there's been a natural inflation at already at baseball games. And people have, eaten the ticket and taken care of it. But I think there comes a time where just like these owners are saying enough's enough and these players are saying, we're getting screwed here. I think the fans look at that and go, listen, who do you think's paying the foot in the bill for all of this? This isn't the owners, but baseball's in trouble. And I'll say this to kind of wrap things up on my side. Baseball's in trouble because if they're not listening to the people that are paying the bill, eventually they're not going to show up. And then the owners are not going to be able to pay these players to play this game that they love for hundreds of millions of dollars. And then what do you have? I think football does a really good job. Hockey's doing a better job. Basketball needs to get back on the same page of understanding that the fan has the leverage. If nobody shows up for these games, none of these games are going to be played. Zero. We saw what happened during the COVID era, right? That's not fun to watch on TV.
No, it was horrible.
It's awful. There's nothing like a live crowd. And they need to understand that during a broadcast, you can hear that. You can see that. You can feel the vibe. I mean, baseball probably hits more fans on television than any other sport because there's so much downtime from that standpoint. Every pitch, you can go to a fan.
And all the foul balls in the
Exactly.
stands.
But baseball doesn't believe that the fan is in charge. The owners are in charge, and we're going to take our marching orders from them. Sorry. The fan is the most powerful component of sports, bar none. Bar none. And baseball has missed the boat for a century now.
Yeah, that's, very interesting stuff. Can
we take a break?
We can take a break, yeah.
Let's take a break, come back, and we'll talk about all the other stuff you want to talk about. We return right here on the Ysn Power Hour. Don't go anywhere.
New things happen all day. Some are good, some not so good. In today's complicated world, while you're busy working, playing, and living life, we're busy helping you make sense of the day's news. And there's only one place where it comes together with clarity, context, and accountability. It's 21 News at 6 with me, Madison Tromler, and Derek Steyer.
21 News at 6. It's what the day's news really means to you.
Welcome home to a home made homier with Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. Inspiration starts at BairdBrothers.com and is turned into reality when high-quality hardwoods are delivered right to your home. Baird Brothers has the latest design trends, shiplap and skinny lap interior siding, antique oak rustic flooring, and, well, you'll find them all at BairdBrothers.com. Ordered easily, delivered conveniently, enjoyed comfortably. BairdBrothers.com.
At Greenwood Chevrolet, shop with confidence knowing we're ready to go the extra mile for you. With the largest selection of used vehicles in the Valley, backed by the Greenwood Advantage Warranty. Every one of our vehicles has undergone our own 126-point inspection, so it passes the most important inspection, yours. No other dealership has the extra inventory, gives you extra for your trade, and goes the extra mile for you. Only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
WRS Wealth Advisors, the area's premier wealth and retirement specialists. Located on South Avenue in Boardman.
It means the world to me to know that what we're doing is impacting people. And whether it's simply, I got to watch my son or daughter when I was out of town, or we just love watching YSN. We love what you do for our son or daughter. So whenever someone says thank you or someone is appreciative of what we're doing, it tells me everyone at YSN is doing what we initially set out to do, which is shine a light on these athletes and help them kind of promote themselves. My name is Anthony Hartwig, and my sports network is your sports network.
And welcome back to the YSN Power Hour. DJ Yoakley on this side of the table, and the living legend himself on the other side, Scotty Mincher. We went over baseball ad nauseum. We probably lost about 7,000 people during that conversation because nobody wants to talk about the millionaires versus billionaires. I get it, the conversation, but now they know who holds the power, Scotty.
Yeah,
the fans.
Well, we want the fans, though.
The fans will always hold the power. The owners think they hold the power, so that's.
But to your point earlier, the owners definitely need, and everybody else around, but even the players, they need to listen more to the fans.
Let me ask you this question before we get to some other stuff, some football talk, some of the other stuff that's going on with the combine and things of that nature. Our elected officials get, and I'm not going to go politics, I know what you're thinking. Our elected officials get 2-year, 4-year stints at their position. Do you believe that commissioners of major sports should be elected every 2 years, every 4 years by a group of owners, or a 50-50 players and owners quorum?
You know, I never really thought about that, but I think it's a hell of an idea. I would say yes.
Because, I mean, listen, we all know how it goes with these. You get elected, and if you got a 4-year term, you do a whole lot of nothing for 3 years, and then that 4th year, you work your ass off.
Yeah.
I think that it'd be in the best situation for baseball to start that. Football would be amazing. Amazing. Because if people don't like Roger Goodell and the decisions he makes, see, there he goes. You got to win the players and the owners. And I think it'd be awesome. And I know that commissioners are representative of the ownership, but I think this gets it back to the fans, and a commissioner should be representative of all three. And hell, let the fans vote. Put it on their website on NFL.com or MLB.com, and you can vote. But you have to register. And this is the business guy in me coming out and saying, here's a way to engage your fans and have your voice heard, which is something that these, other than the Pro Bowl, which means absolutely nothing, the All-Star game that means absolutely nothing, that's the only time that they give fans the power. Let's give them some real power.
Yeah, and let's face it. I mean, we talked about this last week. I don't think there's any even real need for these all. So
the commissioners or the All-Star games? Gotcha.
Games, yeah. It's just, to me, it's just not a good product. It hasn't been a good product for years, these All-Star games. But I like your thinking, and I do think the NFL is the most proactive. Like I think they would like listen to the fans.
They have to. It forces them to.
Yeah, it forces them to.
But listen, I mean, you can have as many terms as you want. You don't have to have term limits from that standpoint. But if you continue to be voted in, but you better do a good job, or else 4 years, 2 years, you're going to be packing.
Well, we know, at least based on the boos he gets every time he announces, like, this is the start of the NFL draft, I think Roger's Goodell his time would be limited.
Yeah, I got that same feeling. I feel like the only one that would be safe right now is the NBA, maybe the NHL, because Rob Manfred would be voted out. He might not make it through this year if he loses much, because you've got 2 season shortened situations under his watch. Now he can't help COVID naturally, but probably didn't do everything the right way in that one either.
I mean, I wanted to ask you just real quick.
Sure.
Before we get combine stuff, a last thing, because you're a little bit older than me, so
you like pointing that out, don't you?
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, older, wiser.
Now we're getting deep.
Yeah, now getting deep. But because I remember when Bud Selig was a commissioner, there was a lot of people didn't really like him either. But do you think Manfred is like taking it to a whole nother level where do you think he even cares about baseball?
I think he cares. I think in this climate, in this world that we live in, it's easy to hate the boss. It's easy to hate the guy that's in charge because he's calling the shots or she's calling the shots. Everybody's favorite quarterback's the backup quarterback. Yeah. And I think that's, as we get older, Scotty, we, our memories get fonder and more fond and from a situation of like I could have got drafted out of high school, right? If you listen to some of the stories that I tell people about my days catching, and then you realize that, it wasn't like that. That's why we're around YSN, right? We make sure that everything's legit years from now when you're telling your college sweetheart that, you could have gone pro out of high school. For me, Scotty, in a long way around this, Manfred cares. I don't think he cares enough about baseball. I don't think these commissioners care enough about the games that they care about pleasing the people who sign their paychecks. And that is the extent of it. And, you want to give these guys some real power is you bring in business people that are fans of the sport. It pissed me off whenever you had Mark Cuban that wanted to buy the Pirates and the owner said no. Mark Cuban loves baseball, loves sports, loves the Pirates.
He would spend money.
And that's the thing, is they don't want a guy like Mark Cuban that is a loudmouth and cares about the game to make everybody else look bad. You never want to sit there and bring somebody in that's going to take you and what you've done and what you're comfortable with and push it down, right? And that's what all these owners are doing. They don't care about advancing the game. They care about checking boxes. And that's why the games aren't getting better. That's why the branding isn't getting better. They have all these, things that we don't even know about. You talk about the money, the cash, international cash that teams are trading. What does that mean? International cash. You can only spend listen, if I want to go sign the dude at the Circle K to my men's softball team, I'm going to do it because I found him first. That's the way it should be. You hired him, you get him. You shouldn't be restricted, and that's what these owners are doing. They're trying to restrict who you can get, but you got teams out there like the Yankees that continue to use the Pirates and the Indians as farm systems for their major league ball clubs so they can churn out and pay money. But you know why we let them do that? Because they're paying luxury tax to us.
What do you think? Did you see recently they were talking about a baseball world in which every team would have to spend at least $100 million.
Hate it. Give me a salary cap before you give me a floor.
I agree.
Give me a salary cap. If you want to give me a floor, I want a cap too, because I'm tired of, okay, you need to spend this much, but make sure that you don't spend more than the Yankees. And the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Mets, all these teams are going to make sure that they are not outspent, that their hat's in the race all the time. Let me tell you, as a fan of small town teams like the Pirates, like the Guardians, it's a challenge. It's a challenge to be interested in these teams unless they're playing really good baseball. You know, Penguins are a small town team in Pittsburgh. They've won Stanley Cups. The Steelers are tied for the most in the NFL. Like I threw that in there. But the Pirates, they were only good in the 70s. Last good in the 70s. In a small window here in the mid-2000s, the 2010s.
Yeah. And maybe 1 year with Bonds.
Well, I mean, they went to back-to-back NLCSs, right?
I think so.
So, I mean, Bonds was a special talent. They had Slike. They had, all those players in the early 90s. But then after that, it was hot, steaming garbage.
You said this before, DJ, not to get, go on a big, long thing here. But as a now Guardians fan, I've been pretty spoiled. Like they haven't won the World Series. Like it's been Heartbreak City as far as finishing the deal, but they've been, for being a small market, the way they've conducted business, it's about as good as you could ask for.
But do you remember how heartbroken you were whenever they didn't sign Smiley?
Yeah,
and now look.
He had a disastrous season last year.
He stinks. He stinks. So if that's the problem. There's fans that think they know. Sometimes the scouts and the owners do know what they're talking about. They got what they could for their high profile player. And sometimes the fans are thinking with their heart instead of with their head. So if you're going to pay that guy $100 billion to play shortstop for you, he better produce. Can you imagine if he did not produce last year and he got that big contract that everybody wanted to give him just because they want to keep him here?
Yeah. Well, don't get me wrong. I wanted them to re-sign Lindor. I just didn't want to give him like a Mike Trout type, like that. What he ended up getting with the Mets. And he's really, these last couple, he went from arguably a top 5 player in baseball to mediocre.
But wasn't,
and maybe he turns it around, but
wasn't it the guys that were around him? He had some pretty special guys that surrounded him in that lineup and on the field. So,
and to that point, DJ, I've said for years that I think Jose Ramirez, who he had in the lineup with him, I've said for years that I thought he was a better player than Lindor.
I don't disagree. I thought Ramirez has been special for a long time, and I think Lindor just got to be the mouthpiece and got to be the front guy for Cleveland baseball. So.
And everyone, like you said, he was more, charismatic.
He's popular.
Mr. Smile.
He's popular. Yeah. Everybody wants Hines Ward, right? Hines Ward was the perfect guy for Pittsburgh. Everybody wants that guy that's smiling, that represents your club, that nobody wants John Rocker. But John Rocker was one of the best closers in baseball and beloved in Atlanta during his time there. They hated him here in Cleveland. They hated him because he didn't do the job. But let me tell you what, if the dude has 50 saves a season, they love him.
Yeah.
They love him. So
he's like Kenny Powers.
Yeah, like Kenny Powers. All right, we got to wrap the show up, Scotty. Let's get to our Joe Dickey Electric. What's your spark? Joe Dickey Electric, What's Your Spark, presented by our friends over at Joe Dickey Electric. Visit them in North Lima or on DickeyElectric.com. Joe Dickey Electric, proudly powering the Valley for over 60 years. Scotty.
My spark, well, this one's is easy. I think I talked about it 2 weeks ago, but just hearing the official news today and what just coming in with so much excitement, feeling great today, not only because it's Wednesday and it's my favorite day of the week, being with everybody here at Ysn, but would you share with me making it official that I'm going to be a big part of this All-Star game? I'm just so stoked, man, beyond belief. This is a lifelong dream that I'm going to get to live out. So that was, I couldn't pick it. That had to be my spark for today.
And I'll add on to it with the official announcement. We'll have Jimmy Sutman on later this week to talk about it. But the All-Star Game presented by Your Sports Network on March 26th at South Range High School proceeds will benefit Golden String. And I'm so excited, Scotty. You know how much you mean to me. And to be able to help out the cause that Jimmy has started and created that's so special around this valley. And so many people have a heart of gold for, to have quite literally Golden String be part of the YSN All-Star Game and have you guys as our guests of honor. Jimmy's going to be spinning some tunes for us all night long. I am incredibly excited. So when people are paying that $5 entrance fee, know that you're giving proceeds. Anything that we get that over the cover our cost of the game to put it on goes to Golden String. And I'm super excited. We've been in works with scholarship funds and Alex's lemonade stand and a lot of things, but by far, with no offense to anybody else, this is my favorite thing to be a part of, and looking forward to you calling that game and engaging and seeing Radar, of course, at the game. I'm sure I'm excited for that, and I'm excited for everybody to tune in if they can't make it, but show up and support not only these great 100 athletes that we're going to be having on the floor, but also to show great people at Golden String across the board and show their support to what, Scotty, you do every day and Dave does every day, and Jimmy has put together just a great local resource for you, Scotty, and you know how much we love and care about you, so we want to support you in any way we can. So to make it official, the YSN All-Star Game 2022 at South Range High School, we are partnered with Golden String, and that's where the proceeds will benefit towards. So that is it, my friend. Congratulations on the announcement. You're going to be announcing that game. Snow will not stop you this time, my friend. It's not going to slow you down this time one iota, hopefully. If it does, we're in big trouble.
Yeah, we are in big trouble.
That's going to do it for our show today. Tune in tomorrow, Thursday, 3 o'clock, right here on the Ysn Power Hour. Peace be with you. YSN thanks you for watching this presentation of